Carlene, and this is Diva Tonight. I have with me on Zoom the lovely Marie and Nicole. This is my first time doing, I guess, a conversation with two people at once. And since this series is devoted to life at 40, I thought it would be interesting to have we both on the show to talk about, your experiences with being a mom, or what we call mompreneur. And Marie's like a foodpreneur. Is that right?
I am a foodpreneur and I enjoy food, but yes, that works.
I saw your little blurb there, and I'm like, oh, that works. Yeah, I like that. So how's it going, guys? How have you been surviving the heat with the kids?
Well, actually,
I was going to say, so my kids are both in two different schools, two different school boards. So TDSB stayed open. That's crazy. And my youngest, the school board actually just shut down. So we just kind of packed up and we squatted at Nicole's house because she's got a pool. So I was like, we're coming over.
She's like, what are you doing tomorrow? And I was like, why?
It takes a village, man. It takes a village. That's going to be like the general premise, but like really friends that you can just laugh at the absurdity of motherhood with. And I would not have picked a better person to hang out poolside with.
Yeah. I mean, even before we started, you guys were already having your conversation. I was just laughing in the behind the scene here, and I'm like, wow, this is what they talk about.
Like that was probably a snippet of what happens just through the entire duration of me and Marie hanging out. Like we can always just find space for any conversation.
And at this point in our relationship, like it's funny because at one point we lived together, and then at one point we didn't see each other for like 10 years. And now we have what I like to call a drive-by friendship, which is just like I see her on a weekly basis where she just drops by my house and with a kid and like hangs out and then leaves and picks up her other kid. And it's just great. It's like that's the ideal kind of friendship where it's like when you're a kid and you don't have to actually do anything or make plans. It's just like, I'm coming over. And then that's it. And it's beautiful. It's sisterhood.
And it's easy. Like we're never obligated to do anything like specific together. Like if we want to go out for coffee, we will. If we want to sit there and just bitch for 3 hours.
Bitch with bubble tea.
Bitch with bubble tea. That's right.
Oh, I like that. The whole bubble tea thing. There was a craze at one point. I remember just instead of people going to the bar, they were going to have bubble tea. And I was like, what? Is this a thing? It's like midnight. People are drinking bubble tea. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we had a tradition for a long time where we would just go and have pho, like Vietnamese pho. And we call it our pho and bitch or pho and bitch. Where we just like sit there in front of a bowl of noodles and just talk about, our mother-in-laws a lot.
Oh my God.
Just life.
Life and how complicated it is.
Yeah.
We haven't actually been for fun a long time, but we've evolved to bubble tea at the moment, but I'm sure we'll evolve again.
With the economy, it's just like a budget, right? So wait a minute, how did you guys meet?
Oh, do you want to tell it?
The long and short of it is that we met through a mutual friend, and both of us liked each other better than we liked that friend. So we don't talk to that.
We got rid of him.
We don't talk to him anymore, but Nicole was the best thing to come out of that friendship. So.
There we go, right?
When we first met, 18 years. Yeah. Yeah, 18. Yeah, because we've been friends almost as long just a little bit longer than I've been married. Because when we met, it was probably around the December, and we met our friend took us to this ska. Was it ska? It's
a dive bar. I'm in dive bars. Nicole and I have a lot of things in common, but music is not one of them. There's not a lot of overlap in our musical genre. We just don't talk about music. It's like the one topic we're like, let's just not. But everything
I'm sure it wouldn't be a point of contention, but at the same time, I was dragged to this place where with the music, I just wasn't feeling it. And I met this new person. I wasn't in the mood. And she was like Marie was like, who is this Nicole person? She sounds awful, or she seems awful. Because I was just not in for it. But it turned out that we actually ended up getting along very, very well. And then I was like, do you want to come to my wedding? Which was only a couple months later. And she was like, sure. And then it's just been from there. So
I'll go to a party.
Wow, early invites. I like that. Wow. So you guys are both now living in Canada. I mean, did we live abroad? Both of you have, right?
No, not me. I've lived.
Oh, not you. Nicole has, but you've gone through a lot. That's a long time, 18 years of friendship. So What makes a friendship last?
I mean, I think that if you can make a friendship last over one of those people being 18 hours by flight away, that you can do it all. So I think it's like commonalities. We have a lot of things that we just really see eye to eye on. We have things that we love that we share, and things that we don't, and that's okay too, because I find what Marie finds so interesting, I end up finding really interesting, and like we have a lot of skills that complement each other. Like, she'll come over and start tossing things out of my wardrobe ever so lovingly and telling me that I have far too many yoga pants, which is fair, but also hurtful. And then and then I will skill share and be like, this is not.
I had a knit.
I taught her knitting. I taught her knitting just last week, and she's doing great. I feel like I have more to the table than knitting, but
No, for sure. I think it is about commonality. I think it's also about like just honoring our differences too. And yeah, we complement each other quite a bit. And it's so funny because I've sort of brought Nicole into my work environment and been like, here, come do this thing, come voluntold to do things for the community. And it's so hilarious to be people like, oh my God, I met your sister. And I'm like, I'm an only child. I don't have a sister. And they're like, oh, your sister. And it's like, I take it as a compliment because it's like, that's great. But like, no.
Yeah. We'll be standing right beside each other. And like, yes, we're both biracial, but no, we don't look alike. And, but by far the best is standing like in meeting Marie's in-laws for the very first time just before she got married. And her father was like, it's so great to meet
father-in-law.
Father, not father. He would know. Father-in-law said, it's so great to meet Marie's sister. And I'm like, you literally know she's an only child, right? Like, she's marrying your son. Don't you know? Didn't know a clue.
It's a compliment. It's great.
Yeah, there we go. It's like you guys mesh so well that everyone thinks like, Nicole, you're part of the family already. You already just, you just fit in like a glove, right?
Yeah, I think if anything, Marie and I, like, our friendship has evolved past just being friends. Like, we are very much family. Her kids are, my nieces very much so. One of them is my goddaughter, but like they call me their aunt. My kids call her Aunt Marie. Like, that's where it is. Yeah.
No, that's so great. So what did you guys do for your 40th birthday? Start things off like that. Did you guys do anything crazy?
Do you remember?
I don't remember my 40th. I remember my 41st was a bigger deal just because of like, I don't know. I didn't make a big deal of my 40th, but my 41st, I celebrated in Mexico. So that was a bigger deal for me. But yeah, my 40th was still, I guess we were still a little close to COVID-ish. Like we're still, still dealing with that. Right. So not as big of an opportunity.
Yeah, I actually celebrated my 40th when I was still living in the UK, but I was exiting the UK. So it was a little bit like, normally I don't do big birthdays for myself. I'll get together with friends, but I don't make a huge deal of it. But it was a huge deal that time just because I was also exiting and moving back to Canada. So I had like all my friends in the UK got together. We went day drinking, which is like definitely my forte. And ended up.
How early did you start?
UK,
in the UK, there is never such a thing as too early to start.
Oh my gosh!
I think probably around 10 a.m. and then I think we capped out probably about 7:30. That was enough. So yeah, but we were doing shots at like the gay club at 6 p.m. So
wow, you definitely started the year off like with a bang, right? Mm-hmm. For sure. So you know what? We're talking about like you living in the UK. What was that like raising your kids in the UK? That experience.
Yeah, I mean, we really loved it. It was a little bit of crazily enough, a culture shock because we had moved to the UK after living in Shanghai for 5 years. So being so used to Asian culture and then moving back into more Anglo culture was actually shocking, despite the fact that we're Canadian ourselves. And just because, like, as much as the UK is definitely obviously English friendly, it's not Canada. It's very different. Their systems are different. The way that some of them interact are very different. I remember going into the grocery store in my first week and they said, like, you all right? And I was like, why? Do I not look all right? What's your problem? But like, that's just like the general greeting, but I didn't know what to do or how to take it. And like, so learning those little like things on the side was fun and challenging. My kids obviously were very fish out of water because, everyone had expected them to act a certain way coming from Asia when it's like, nope, they're still very much Canadian kids. You're not going to find very much obedience out of them. Like they just have that streak, and no, they don't fully speak Mandarin, sadly. And no, they're not especially good at math. So like
the whole stereotype. Oh my gosh. Right.
Yeah. But we absolutely loved the UK. We were there over COVID, and we still kind of feel like we didn't have enough of it. We did get a chance to explore all over the country, which was lovely. But I mean, we were very comfortable there. The winters were not awful like they are here.
I'm trying to remember like what Nicole said about whether or not you've raised your kids abroad or if it was
I raised them here.
Raised them here. Okay.
But I mean, I raised them here while being an entrepreneur. So I didn't have mat leave. So that was its own like little interesting for me, to have back-to-back pregnancies and then just sort of like have like 2 babies in the crib and then you're like typing out emails. Like it was just a little bit chaotic.
Wow. Yeah.
No, I did them here.
Yeah. You know what? I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I watched one of your reels and you said that you were talking about your experience with childbirth and how you had some complications. So I watched a bit of that, and I mean, I think that's really brave of you. You know what I mean? To take that step. I guess the challenges of motherhood, like even just having a child, right? When there's some complications with that. So
yeah, I mean,
want to talk about that or?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I always tell my friends who don't have kids, like the kids are fine. The systems around motherhood are ghetto. Like all of those systems, every piece of it is just, it doesn't make any sense. And it would just be so much easier to be a parent if those systems were a little bit more concise. But the first one being like how we handle birth in Canada, or I guess the system as a whole is a little bit weird. I had complications with both my pregnancies. With my first one, it was a little bit more medical. I actually ended up being hospitalized for a month before delivering, and then I delivered a month early, and then I went back to the hospital because I had some complications, and that was a whole thing because it's like we don't recognize the 4th trimester. I always tell people it's like if you broke your arm and then I put it in a cast, your arm's still broken. So if you just delivered a baby 3 days ago, even though you're technically not pregnant, you're pregnant. Your body is still very much pregnant. You are still very much in harm's way in terms of like pregnancy related complications. They're not as common, but it can happen. And I was just not prepared for how my body would react to pregnancy. And then it was a bit of a surprise to get pregnant 3 months later and be like, here we are. I was told I couldn't have kids. So it was just, everything was just very like, we wanted them. Like absolutely, we tried for the first one. And then it was just, I just didn't think it was going to happen so quickly and so effortlessly given everything. And then with the second pregnancy, that was a little bit more complicated. And I had an awful experience with the doctor who delivered the baby. She's been accused of all kinds of things and being investigated by the college, or was being investigated for gross negligence with regards to like 2,500 women who got exposed to certain things. But yeah, I had an awful experience with her. And I, after seeing that article come out, I wanted to share my experience because childbirthing it's challenging enough, but it's more mental than physical. And I can say that having like extra stuff, like a sketchy doctor or like weird experiences like that, just they make them more complicated. And it really changes the way you walk into motherhood. Because obviously if you're walking in with some trauma, it's stuff you have to deal with and unpack as you're also raising human beings and trying to like, get yourself together and heal and all these other things. It's just a lot.
Yeah. So you said you had complications with both your children. So was it like, did you have like a condition that prevented you from having an easy childbirth? Like,
I developed postpartum preeclampsia with my first, and most of the time it's preeclampsia. It's a condition where like, they don't know what causes it, but it's like the placenta doesn't quite attach to the wall properly. And essentially the body starts thinking the placenta is a foreign object, and it starts attacking it and the immune system. But like all of your major organs and all of the baby's major organs go through the placenta. So if your body is attacking itself, it's basically shutting down all your major organs. So that was with the first pregnancy. And then I developed it with the second one. Obviously they were like, there's a good chance you're going to develop it. So they knew what they were looking for. But with the first one, it was like, surprise, you have to go back to the hospital because you're having a hard time breathing, and you can't walk. And it was a lot. But yeah, I think that's the thing that probably surprised me about motherhood the most, because I mean, even in the books I was really reading a lot of like woo-woo books. I really wanted to have like a home birth. I wanted to, like, Nicole and I, we both are big, like, we do not like hospitals. Mm-hmm. And she had a home birth, and I was actually living with her when she had her home birth. And I was like, I want a home birth. And I bought a pool, and I was like ready to like give birth in my living room and with no intervention. And I had almost every intervention possible. And it was just like that dream of having my like a low intervention pregnancy just went out the window.
Yeah, it's your body.
Surrender to whatever is going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, so speaking about home birth, Nicole, how was that, having a home birth? Do you remember? Like,
oh, yeah. I mean,
you remember?
I think when it comes to birth stories, like when people tell you, it's like, wow, I had no idea it could be like that, right? That's the thing that
Yeah. So for me, like Marie said, I'm not a huge fan of hospitals. I kind of feel like that's where only sick people go. And I feel like in pregnancy, unless you have complications leading up or whatever, that you are not a sick person. Like you're a very well person. And so
it's not medical, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. And so I was really gung-ho on having a midwife and having a home birth, and my family was not, but that's okay because it wasn't their experience. But my husband was supportive. So that's really kind of all I needed. And when I went into labor, I didn't know I was in labor. And the only reason I really kind of knew I was in labor is when then my husband started buzzing around the house and being like, just like preparing, calling like Jen, our other friend, to pick up the dog. Like Marie knew about it, like everybody. And I'm just like, what's happening? But then I had a home birth in my bedroom. With my lovely midwife, who also didn't think that I was in labor until she saw me. And then she was like, nope, you definitely are. And then, I mean, I didn't do any, training on breathing or any hypnotherapy or anything like that.
No Lamaze class?
No Lamaze classes. No, I just kind of went with it. And I'm lucky that I have a very high pain tolerance. Like that's something that I just have always had. So it was a great experience. He was out in 12 hours and healthy and happy. And, I was also very aware that if something was to go wrong, I was only a certain 5 minutes away from an actual hospital. I could get there, and we were prepared for that possibility. But no, very lucky. Everything went through fine. And in China, I didn't have the luxury of being able to have a home birth. My second one I had in Shanghai, and we had to be in a hospital. It's by the government. And it went as expected. I wasn't able to, be in the birthing positions that I wanted to be that made me comfortable. It was all about kind of more based around the doctor and how comfortable they were in me giving birth, and which was very different from having my midwife, which was all mostly centered the care around me and making me comfortable. Regardless, Oren came in a good 4 hours, which was, very uncomfortable, but he did come out. And in less than 24 hours, I was walking myself out of that Chinese hospital while they chased me because they didn't think that I could walk, but I could. And they chased me down the stairs until I got into my car and was like, sign the papers. And I was like, oh yeah, I have to do paperwork for, when I give birth. But yeah, I love my home birth. I would, if I had any more kids, I do not want, then I would probably have.
I was going to say, I'm like, the answer is no.
The answer is no more children.
We're good.
Yes. I've read, what? I was reading stats, guys, and they say in our time now, in our generation, we're having less kids. And I think there's a lot of factors that come into play with that. I was reading this article, and yeah, I think women are having children older, later in life, and they're also focusing more on their careers. So as both career women, why do you think that's the case? It's so different from 50 years ago.
How old were you, Nicole, when you had Kai?
I was 28.
Okay, I was 33. So we're on the older side of things.
I guess it's funny because in my family, I was definitely over the hill. My family was
yeah.
Because all the women in my family before I came along, and I'm the only female in my generation of my family, all of them had their kids before they were 20. And, they were far more invested in me having a child than me getting married. So, and I was like, no, thank you. I'll have them when I'm ready. And so, 28. And I think that, when people say, oh, the declining birth rate and oh, women are having children older, why is that a bad thing? Like, we have so many people in this world, so many kids who are being unloved. Like, why do we need to pump that into that system more? And also, why is it not okay to give women the space to live their lives before they start families?
I was going to say, like, a big part, like, I tell my kids, I'm here to raise you, to help you learn how to be, like, I can't tell you what to do your whole life. And like, for me to even have a resemblance of like anecdotes to share with my kids, I needed to live my life, right? I've done the good, the bad, the ugly. I've done all kinds of things. I've had all kinds of experiences, and I can share with them the learnings, right? And I tell the kids all the time, like, it's like, fuck around and find out, right? There's two ways for you to learn about things in this world: is you can experience them yourself, for better or for worse, or you can learn through people that love you, that care for you, that want to share their experiences with you, so that you can sort of like reap the benefit of just knowing without having to like go through the pain of all of those things. But like for me, without getting to specifics, for my mom's privacy, she didn't have me until she was almost 40. And so like for me, there was never that pressure to have my kids early. I didn't even know if I wanted to have children. It really wasn't until I met my partner, and I was a stepmom for like 6 years before I was ever a mother. So I kind of got little glimpses. I mean, stepmom is a completely different role. Like, you're more of like a supporting cool aunt type of thing, especially as they get older and they're not at your house as much. But like, I got glimpses of what it looked like to be in a family unit, and I really liked it. And, I think that's the thing. Like, it's difficult. The hardest part about parenting, like I said, is the structures and the systems that make it very difficult. Like, school's done at 3:00, but all your workplaces are done at 5, and like bullshit like that, or daycare is impossible to get into, and like all this crap. Like, that's the hard part. But the kids themselves, like, I'm always like, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Like, you have the best days you've ever had, and then the hardest days you'll ever have.
Let me tell you, yes. Absolutely. And like, I think one of the key things that you said is like, sharing your experiences. And I just think that women who are older have more experiences to share. Like, they have more lived experiences. They have so much more in-depth education, knowledge, like, to share when parenting, which I think is so valuable because, kids having kids, sometimes it just doesn't always work out, and those people grow up to be older adult parents, and yes, they now are able to live their lives when they're in their 40s, but then they do stuff that's like, no, you should really only do that when you're 20. Like,
and I will say, like, there's nothing that kicks up trauma quite like having a kid, because like you're you're either like repeating stuff that you enjoyed from your childhood, or you're potentially remedying things that you didn't enjoy. And so like, if you're not ready to face mirror versions of yourself and recognize that they are not you. So it's like, there's something there where it's like, you're there to guide them. You have an opportunity to kind of like resolve your own stuff, but you can't force them to do things, right? And so it's just like, it's this dance, and you have to have a certain amount of maturity to understand that, and that it's coming for you. Like, I've learned so much about myself through my kids, and they've learned about themselves through watching me as well, right? We're just kind of like bouncing off of each other. But I think if I was in my 20s, like, I don't know, I wasn't ready for that. And like, not dogging anyone who has kids when they're young, or, it is, we all have our own journey. But I remember kind of like, having my first and being pregnant at 33, and people being, oh, having your kids young means you have more energy. And I was like, I guess. But I mean, I'm trading off energy, I guess, for wisdom. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
It's tailing off because I had another guest on the show, and she had her first child in her 30s, and then her second in her 40s. And I think she was better prepared for her second child at 39, 40 than she was in her 30s. Because like you said, even though you have the energy, you don't have the wisdom. And I think wisdom is probably the best that, because you're talking about trauma, and that's something I can't relate because I do not have kids, but I know from talking to my sister that she said, if you don't have those things resolved, they come up when you have a child.
Definitely.
So, do you find like there's certain things that did come up where you're just like, ooh, I didn't expect that? Or, I mean, like, because parenting, there's no one book. I think Nicole and I talked about that over email. Like, there's no perfect manual book out there. I mean, you can read everything in the book about parenting, but until it actually happens.
I think Nicole and I are both big on like grit and resilience, like embedding that into our kids. And I mean, I have 2 girls, she has 2 boys, so it's going to look very different. Like grit and resilience are going to look very different. But I know like for me, like my kids are very different from each other. And one of my kids is like super, super, super sensitive. She wears everything on her sleeve. Like you can tell when she's got big emotions. She has big feelings. And, you know, talking to her about what it looks like when people are mean or they're bullying her, right? And saying sort of like, and I know that my parents would have never said this to me, but I'm like, it's okay that people don't like you. And it's okay that you don't like people. Doesn't mean you can be mean to them. But not everyone has to like you. And you don't have to like everyone, right? But you just stay out of their way. And as an adult, it's no different. You're going to meet people that you're not going to like. But going out of your way to be a dick to them, that's a different story. So it's like making that differentiation, being like, this is totally normal. It's totally normal for you to meet people and be like, these really aren't my people. But that's a very different experience than being mean. So it's like sort of separating the wheat from the chaff so that she can sort of be like, it's okay that this person doesn't like me. But what's not okay is that they're being rude to me. Right. And so even making that differentiation, like that's not something that I would have gotten as a kid. It would have been like, they're jealous of you.
Right?
Are they, mommy? Are they? And it's like, no, I don't think so.
No. Yeah. It's just like not the talk that you want, right? It's not supposed to like build your confidence. But I think what you said to your daughter is so true. But I think we had this conversation. I just remember this is going off, but you guys were talking about how your kids are learning like their strengths, like in terms of like personality. I think you were saying, Nicole, like one of your sons knows he's learned how to get what he wants, like with certain things.
Yeah.
And do you remember, like, I think you briefly said that last time, like learning at a young age, like, this is how I can get what I want.
Oh, yes.
You know?
So, I mean, my youngest has always been like adorable, and he came out adorable, and he would charm the pants off of anybody. And I remember before he even started school, he was always very well acquainted with all the teachers that were going to be his eventual teachers. And they were just like, we have to look out for him. And they eventually ended up having a meeting about him, being like, listen, you got to look out for him. He will use every charm in the book. He'll bat his little eyelashes, he'll smile his little smile, and he will get out of it. And it's so true. Like, Oren is a master at that kind of
privilege.
Very cute privilege. I feel like now that he's preteen, it's starting to rub off a little bit because you're like, no, now you're just smelly. You're not as cute. He still has it. He still has it in there though, where people are like, oh, look at him, he's adorable. And you're like, no, don't trust it. Don't trust it. So
yeah, I have both my kids are really cute, but again, they're a year apart. And one of them enjoys performing femininity a lot more than the other, right? She's like the girliest of girls, right? So it's like pink everything and frills and bows. And like, I lap it up and I give her like some of my old costume jewelry and stuff. And like, she's very much the girliest of girl. And my other kid is not as interested in leaning into femininity. It's pretty neutral across the board, and she really doesn't care. But it's interesting to see how people react to them. And so sometimes those reactions have a bunch of bias that we have as a society, like one kid will do something and it'll be perceived as maybe less annoying or less offensive, and then the other kid will do it and it'll be seen as more aggressive just because like one isn't leaning into femininity as much. In fact, a lot of times one of my kids gets misgendered as a boy. I mean, they all kind of look the same, right? But I mean, she's got short hair. They both have short hair, but again, one of them has a little bit more of a generic look. And yeah, it's very interesting to see how a potential boy would be treated versus a very feminine girl. I mean, I don't love that. Like, I don't love that juxtaposition. I think at the end of the day, they're kids, right? They should be.
Yeah.
Well, because they feel it too, right? Because I remember there was one part where your eldest was like upset that a lot of the attention was focused on the youngest because so cute.
People will walk up and be like, she's so cute, and then not even comment.
Oh, the other one.
And again, I'm telling you, I'm like, they're both very cute. They don't even look alike. I would argue that Nicole and I look more alike than my kids.
Yeah, probably.
And this is I mean, both Nicole and I are interracial, and so like our kids are as well. So it's just one of those like, throw dice in a thing, give it a shake, and we end up with whatever. I have one kid that's got like curly, sandy, brown hair and blue eyes. I've got another one who's got like straight brown hair and brown eyes, and they don't look anything alike. But it's very interesting to see how the kids are treated by others, and I think part of our job as parents is to remind our kids who they are, because we're witnessing them in multiple areas, right? We've gotten to know them before they went to school. We get to see them with their friends. We get to see them with family. We get to see them in their best times and their worst times. And I think as we get older, even myself have experienced that when you have that like little crisis where you're like, who am I? And what am I supposed to do in this world? And like, what's my purpose? And like, like this whole thing. It's nice if your parents are paying attention. It's nice for them to be able to remind you kind of like, this is who you are. Don't let this get you down.
Diva Tonight. Glamour for your ears. This is 40, a female perspective.
Yeah. And to be accepting of that as much as possible. Like, I mean, my sons have evolved through their experiences for sure. Their experiences of living overseas and multiple moves and, these situations where they've been forced to create brand new friends groups for themselves or it like I've had to create for them and they carry it forward. Either or. And it's been challenging at times for them. And it's really molded who they are. I have one who, started off as very much as an extrovert, easy to make friends. And he's kind of gone a little bit more introverted because, at the timing of our moves has been more difficult for him at his age stage versus my youngest one, where he's always been put in situations where it's like instant friend. So he has those kind of easier times at being an extrovert and joining things and being social. Now, it could also be a part of stages because, Marie has younger kids. My kids are a teen and preteen, and hormones come into play. All kinds of stuff comes into play. I can't even handle it.
Male friendships are a completely different ballgame.
Completely different too. Male friendships. Yeah, a lot of boys these days are very completely fine with their friendships are done through screens. Like that's how they conduct their friendships, and they don't necessarily hang out as much anymore. Or if they do, again, it's through a screen. And that's very different from how I grew up, where we would get together. And I still very much get together with my friends. I see Marie every week. It would be weird for me if it is weird.
If you guys were doing like Zoom calls and like having
no, a lot of meme sharing. There's an egregious amount of meme sharing that happens on all platforms.
Ongoing basis. If I don't hear from her for like 2 days, and I'm like, she dead? So there's something wrong. You good?
You're good? You're alive?
I haven't seen a Labubu in like 24 hours. So, and just being accepting of the stage that they are, because you'll get a lot of comparisons in parenting. You'll get a lot of people being like, oh, well, mine does this, yours doesn't do this, and mine acts this way and yours doesn't. And, for a while I was really worried that my kids weren't normal, right? But they're normal in their way, which is exactly where they need to be. And I think Maria, it was you that was like, you mentioned my eldest and like how chill he was and how like he seems very confident in who himself.
Very mature.
Mature. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like he doesn't need to, he's not the preening type of boy. He doesn't get up in the morning and 45 minutes early and make sure his hair is right, make sure his clothes is right. He's a kid a 14-year-old kid who's not at that stage yet. And I'm okay with that. And that's normal too. Like to just, be easy in who he is. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about like motherhood and like your own trials and tribulations, but like career, you do work during, the day. And so how do you handle that? The challenges of work and then balancing your home life. Yeah.
My work experience has been all over the place. So, when I had the kids, I was an entrepreneur, and that was it had pros and cons. And I think they were kind of the double-edged sword, right? So it's like pro, no structure, con, no structure. So it's like my day could be whatever, but then it could be whatever. And so boundaries and limits and all that stuff with your work, kids are boundary and limitless at that age because they just need you. And of course your business is boundless and limitless at that age as well. So it's it was really hard juggling the two. But when the pandemic hit, so my kids were about 1.5 and 2.5 when the pandemic hit. And I was already used to being at home with them, and they weren't in daycare. They've never been in daycare. And I remember I got my first corporate job just for like, it was like an 8-week contract that ended up lasting 6 months. And there's a couple things that I noticed. Like one was like watching other people lose their minds about having their kids at home and me being like, oh, like it's hard or something. Like I knew it was hard, but it was just the reality of watching like successful people just lose their minds. But like, what am I going to do with these kids? How am I going to do this? And I was like, I've normalized this thing that people are losing their minds about. And it kind of gave me grace to kind of be like, this was really hard. And I should be easier on myself and be proud of what I was able to accomplish during that crazy time. But it was
how were you able to accomplish it? Because you said like the whole structure thing, did that go out the window? Like, I mean, like they're a year apart and then you're managing typing away sending an email to a client. Yeah.
I mean, my health was really hard. I'm really lucky that I have a really good, like between my parents and my in-laws, I have a lot of support. I think more support than most people that I know. My parents are retired. Like I went back to the hospital for 2 weeks after having my first. So literally I had a baby. I went home for 3 days and then I had to go back to the hospital for 2 weeks without the baby, right? You're not like dragging a baby with you to the hospital. So my mother-in-law actually took my baby and like raised it for the first 2 weeks of its life. And that was hard. And then like, we did catering. And so when I had to be on site somewhere, we always had a friend or somebody would come help. A friend of mine who was trained to be a PSW, she came in and she helped a lot. And she was just like, sometimes it'd be like, hey, do you want me to come over just so you could take a shower? And I'm like, oh my God, yes. And it's like, it takes a village. And of course, Nicole was, I think, still in China, potentially. I believe
during COVID? Were you in China?
No, I was in the UK during COVID.
Yeah, I can't even but it's interesting to kind of like I have different markers of like what friends were there based on like where they were and where I was in my life too. And then now I work for a nonprofit where like I work from home. I have a very flexible schedule. I finally have found a place where having children and being able to demonstrate my ability to manage all of the crazy things that come with kids, the schedule, the home, the everything, right? Those are assets and they should be. I think a lot of times employers look at women of a certain age as a liability. It's like, oh, you're going to have to dip out early to grab your kids, or like, oh, your kids are sick. And it's like, yeah, my kids are sick. I can still get shit done. And it's like, yeah, I have to dip out to go get my kids. But like, again, unless you're doing work that requires you to be on site, like my husband's a chef, so he has to be on site. All my work can be done remotely and I do it remotely. And it's like, there's no obligation for me to go into the office or for me to show face just for some arbitrary like corporate culture. Meanwhile, like my kids are in daycare and I'm spending like crazy amounts of money. But yeah, like everyone keeps asking me like, what are you gonna do this summer? And I'm like, my kids are gonna be here just like they are every summer. Like nothing's changed. It's like we're just continuing what we've been doing. And like now they're old enough that they can pour their own cereal and they can watch TV and they can read a book and they can take care of themselves to some extent. I'm in my office. It's like in my bedroom, it's like one door over, and we're in a small condo. It's just, it works, but I know it doesn't work for everyone, but it works.
I left a 13-year career in television and radio to be an expat for my husband's career. So we moved over to China for his job. And when we got there, I was what's known as a tai, which is, women who lunch, like ladies who lunch. We don't work. Like we kind of piggyback on our husband's work visa, and typically we're not allowed to work over there. So, it became my focus to raise my kids in the first little while until I got bored, because I am, if anything, a serial hobbyist. I always want to do something. I have to keep myself busy or else I go crazy. So I had the opportunity to become an entrepreneur, and I like evolved myself through business over there. I started writing for a magazine. I became a columnist, and I created my own graphic design giftables business, which was crazy. And I made these pillows, which were, I kind of wish that I discovered my my business in that earlier, because it was really lucrative and really fun. At one point I had like 300 pillows piled up in my doorway, and people were like, what's going on? And I just like pillow business at Christmas. It was crazy. And my kids would be like, what is this? And I'm like, it's mommy's job. And they're like, job? Like, what do you mean job? I thought your job was going to the shopping mall. And I was like, well, that is also my job.
Yeah.
You know, and then in the UK, when we moved there, the thing is that for me, for the last 10 years, it was kind of stop and start because I was like, well, do I start a career? Are we going to move? Will I have to end my career as soon as I started? Like, so I would just kind of do things that brought me joy, which I really appreciate having the ability and like the privilege to be able to do that over the time that I was away. Not everybody has that luxury, but it kind of gave me the space to figure out stuff that I really love to do. And I was volunteering, which I found, really fulfilling. And then when I came back here, I was like, well, how hard is it going to be to bust back into an industry that I haven't traditionally been in 10 years? And thankfully, I had a friend who was really motivated to get me into her company. And so I've been working with her for 2 years, and it's just a small company and we work remotely, which again, it's so appreciative to me to be able to work remotely because I get to still be here when I need to be here for the boys. I get to be flexible and I get to, have that luxury of being able to pick them up from school when they need to, while still being able to make meetings that I need to. Like, I appreciate the whole businesses allowing their employees to go remote when they need to, because, let's be honest, we don't all need to be face to face. We all Zoom anyway half the time. So, yeah. And it's been interesting being back in a traditional, like a work life or work environment over the last 2 years, which is, even now I'm just kind of resist. How do I get back to crafting only? How do I get back to lunching only? But,
More knitting projects, more knitting projects.
Well, I'm the crochet queen. You insisted on knitting, which I still don't understand, but I'll turn you to the dark side soon.
Yeah. Be a one needle wonder.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But the thing is though, like when you work from home, I think, do you find like you get so comfortable now that you work from home that like meeting up in person is a thing? You know what I mean? I think, do you feel like we've become complacent because of technology in that sense,
I don't think the technology should be about efficiency, but it doesn't replace the face-to-face. So like, again, I work with I'm on a team with 3 other women. We're kind of like, I think I'm the only one who doesn't go to the office because it's a Don Mills in Eglinton and I'm not about that. And not about that commute. Like our, I guess, customers, we're nonprofit. So like our participants, they're all entrepreneurs. So if everything was in person, if I was meeting with everyone in person, it would be also annoying for them too. So it's like, there's efficiency. It doesn't replace the face-to-face. We still get together from time to time. We give opportunities. I'm the community manager, so I do a lot of events and stuff like that, like farmers market, for example, on the weekends. But I find that there's a lot more understanding around what that looks like. So I'll give an example. Like, I am a salaried employee. I work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, technically, like on paper. But like, I co-run a farmer's market that's on Saturdays. It's like, okay, well, my husband now works on Saturdays. So I dragged my kids to a farmer's market and my boss was there. And instead of it being like can I bring my kids? It's like, I'm bringing my kids. And like, she's literally playing Connect 4 with them. And like, again, there's an opportunity for there to be like an ecosystem that includes the kids. Mm-hmm. I've also seen that like, even in now I'm sidetracking, but like even in my friendships, some of my friends who don't have children, I've seen them be kind of like, bring the kids. And it's really nice because it's like, it gives you that family feeling where it's not, my kids aren't like some dirty little side accessory that I can like
no. Yeah.
And like sometimes you have friends where it's like, especially if it's like drinking friends or like partying friends, you're like, maybe I only see you when I don't have my children. But generally speaking, like as I'm getting older, I'm prioritizing people and business ventures and opportunities that kind of allow me to show up as my whole self, including being a mom, as opposed to situations where it's like, you work for corporate and then they're like, yeah, it's all great, but you're going to pretend like you don't have kids, or like friendships that are only like the richness is only, the depth is only there because like you don't have your kids around you. It's like, there's got to be balance there.
Yeah. And I think it is really about being efficient. Like I find that since I'm able to work from home, I'm able to, get my workout in. I'm able to take the kids to school and make their lunch. I'm not running around crazy being like, I have to get like on whatever TTC or drive through traffic for an hour to get to my workplace. Like that just takes so much more out of you. Like I can give so much more to my work when I am comfortable and when I'm not tired or stressed out. And when I know that I have an employer that has my back, knowing that like I will still get my work done. Thank you. But you've afforded me the flexibility to do that. So, I mean, I think that it's really an old school thinking that we all need to be in an office face to face all the time. Of course, it's good to get together with your team. And like I said, we do get together, my team as well, occasionally. But the reality is that a lot of the work people, you know, we don't live all in one spot. So my clients are all over North America and some in America and some in the UK. So it's like, what am I supposed to do? Fly out every week to meet people face to face? Like when I need to? No, because like that's not the kind of job that I would be able to hold with my family situation. So
I was gonna say, and like Nicole and I, a little bit different. Like my husband stays local. Nicole's husband travels a lot, but we both have partners who work outside the house a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact of the matter is like someone has to be.
Who's going to take care of the kids?
Someone needs to supervise the children.
Someone's got to make sure things get done.
I need to make sure my kids are eating more than ramen 3 times a day.
And so it's nice to be able to have a career because like that's a lot of like, you know, like, and no disrespect to anyone who wants to be a stay-at-home mom or who can afford to be a stay-at-home mom and anything. I think that's great too. Like it's fantastic. Whatever works for you works for you. But I know, you know, for me, it's like, I need motherhood is part of who I am, but it's not all of who I am. And I wanted to make sure that there were still pieces of me that existed outside of my kids. And there's room for, you know, my passions and my learnings and the things I like to do. Like I freelance model and I, you know, there's all these other things that I want to do that I can do that are outside of motherhood that I think, again, enrich those experiences that I can share with my kids.
Yeah, it makes you a whole person that you're able to then like you dial that down to your children and through your parenting. Like, you know, you have to have a life outside of just your home family life sometimes. I think to keep yourself sane. So
otherwise your kids are going to be 18 and you're going to fall apart and you're going to have your existential crisis of like, who am I? What am I? Because
why am I?
We are hyphenated beings. And we move through this world with all of those different things and those different titles. And motherhood's just one that gets added on. And it's an intense one for 18 years, but it never really goes away. And at the same time, it's not like the basis of who you are as a person.
Yeah, it's always been just a part of me. It's never been me, right? Like it's something that I elected to do for myself, like for ourselves, my husband and I, but it's never been, this is what I am now, you know? And it's funny because like when you become a mom, a lot of people want to punch a hole into a mom role. So like when I started doing writing, they're like, well, you're going to be a mom blogger. And I was like, what's that supposed to mean? Because I mean, I am by no means an expert on parenting. Don't look at me for that. Right. Like I have no training. So like, I'm not an expert. I actually have a lot more opinions on many, many other things other than just being a mother. This is not the entirety of who I am. So
what do you say to someone who is in their 40s and they're considering becoming a parent? Like, what is your advice?
Like, but you're old. No, I'm joking. You're tired. Don't do it. No. I mean, everybody starts their family when they feel like they need to, or, you know, when they're
mentally, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I have friends that are definitely starting to have babies now or are having their second or third now. And if that's right for them, then that's right for them. I think it comes with their own challenges though, because I mean, your body is not the same as it was when you're much younger. You know, your level of tiredness isn't the same. Your level of patience is not necessarily the same. And when, at this stage, when we're starting like perimenopause to start creeping in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I lose my damn mind and I can't even imagine being pregnant and losing my damn mind or having a newborn and losing my damn mind. And that's just personally for me. But I say, you know, go for it. If this is what you want, it doesn't matter what age you are. Go for it. You know, be happy, be confident in your choice.
I think people are really risk averse as they get older. So I think the only piece of advice I would give is like, it's never going to feel right.
No,
it's like, you're never going to feel ready. I mean, maybe some people are, but I've heard people be like, well, we're not ready. We're not in the right house. We're not in the right. And I'm like,
never will be.
I don't know. Like I ran a business and I will say running a business is very similar to having kids, a family, like as structurally, it's very like, there's a lot of overlap there and it is your baby in a way. And, you know, when you don't know what you don't know, when you walk in with a little bit of ignorance, sometimes it works in your advantage because you're like, I didn't know. And
No one taught me.
So one time, then you find out really quickly, like, oh shit, like I feel like if you like really researched it, like if you really like know the ins and outs, like you will never know the ins and outs, because every kid is different, every pregnancy is different, everything is different. My kids are a year apart, and I can't think of two more different kids. The other thing too is like your parenting style. Like my parenting style.
What is your parenting style?
Oh God,
helicopter mom?
no,
no. No.
I would consider myself a free range parent where I kind of observe what they're doing and like make edits as I need to, as opposed to I try not to like, there's some proactive pieces of parenting and then there's some reactive and then there's just sort of like observing, because a lot of it is like, if I'm like, careful, be careful. It's like, that's not helpful.
Oh my God. I have to say, we were at a park. I was visiting in from China, from the UK, I think. And Marie's eldest was just, let's say 2. And I remember she was up on this jungle gym, like at the top. And I'm looking at her and I'm looking at Marie and I'm like, should she be up there? Marie's like, yeah, it's fine. She likes to climb. I'm like, okay, like that's cool. Right. Meanwhile, like so many other moms would be like underneath them being like, oh my God, like, be careful. Hold on.
Part of it is like, it's, that particular kid is like, she had a lot of confidence. And the last thing I want to do is project my insecurity and fears of her inability to do something onto her. So sometimes I'll be like, you feeling safe up there? You feeling good? Yeah, I'm feeling good. Okay. Do you have a plan on how to get down? Like asking questions like that instead of just being like, careful. Now, my youngest would never dream of doing that. She'd get up on one step and then just be like, Mom, I can't get down. And so it's like, you have to know who your kids are. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, kind of adjust your parenting per kid. They're not getting the same experience. They're not getting the same experience. They're getting equity and not equality. Like, it's just, you have to kind of adjust, which is hard when they're both kind of in the same stages, but they have very different needs. So a lot of it's like, you kind of have to split yourself in half and be like, oh, got to be here and here,
Yeah. And I've mentioned to you how, like, there's so many different parenting playbooks out there about how to raise kids. And like, yeah, sure. Some of them work. They don't work entirely. Some of them don't work. Like, it's just, you can take bits and pieces of everything, but there's never going to be a whole plan on how to raise a child, because at any given time, I cause my children trauma. And I know that. I'm just like, whatever I do.
Be in therapy because of something we've done.
100%. I'm past the point to, I'm like,
yes, you're okay.
Awareness is half the battle, though, like knowing we're going to mess them up somewhere.
What about the school system, right? I mean, I don't know. I think with technology, we're living in a different time. So I think, like you said to me, Nicole, you do the best you can. And I think the one thing I read too is that even with all the resources out there, there's always going to be something that contradicts. Like I remember reading a sociology article, and she said that, and it made me think of what you said, Nicole, about how there is no right way to parent. Even if you have the information, there will be something that contradicts that article in another article, or one parent will say this, and then, so it makes it really...
I feel like the only difference between a parent who's just out there parenting and like a person who is a parenting expert is that like someone took all of their stumbles and falls and put them into a book, and the other people didn't, right? Instead, I pour all my stumbles and falls into Marie, right? And be like, I fucked up. And that's just it. Nobody knows necessarily what they're doing, because every child is so different, and you have to parent them in completely different ways sometimes, and my way won't work the same for my boys as it would if I was to try to parent Marie's kids, and vice versa. You
do have evidence of what a child, like, you've experienced your childhood, so you do have evidence of things that, like, you have an idea of what worked and what didn't work. And I think this is where, like, you get into like stage mom situations, or people who are like projecting onto their children. It's like, they are different than you.
Yeah.
But you do have the opportunity to sort of share with them things that you enjoyed. And if they take to it, run with it. If they don't take to it, keep looking, keep working with them, listen to what they want. Like, I think kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. Like, I went to Montessori school when I was really, really small. And I always joked that like Montessori is like supervised neglect. You're basically like, here's a step stool, do it for yourself. And that's, I mean, like, come for me, but that's basically what it is, right? It's not a bad thing, but it's about teaching them self-sufficiency. you mentioned helicopter parenting. To me, again, that's like, it's clipping their wings. It's like stopping them from being able to see what the limits of their own possibilities are without you. My job is to encourage them to become themselves. It's not for me to do everything for them. Of course, if they need help, I'm here. But even the act of learning how to ask for help, which is something a lot of us, even as parents, we have to learn. Like, I know I had to learn that as an adult. It's like, how do I ask for help without feeling like I'm not capable? It's like, it's okay, we can do that. But then we have to teach our kids how to do that stuff, how to function in society and community.
Yeah. And like, I grew up, my grandmother raised me and she was fairly hands off. I kind of feel like she was like, well, I screwed up 5 other kids. So this one, I'm just going to do whatever with. And I came along and I was like, got good marks and was in sports. And she was like, she parented me, but barely, because she just let me do whatever, because I was always just kind of like that kid that always did well in whatever. And, my kids, they're not quite that. And my husband is like, he's on tiger parenting. So it's like, in his background.
Tiger parenting. I want to know what that is.
Oh, basically it's this like generational trauma that pours in from specifically immigrant families who, struggled so hard to get to where they are now to give you the best of life. So now you have to excel at everything, and not just excel, but be the best, like be the most excellent of everyone. So, you're getting an A. Why didn't you get an A plus? Right? Like that whole mentality. And my husband grew up in that kind of environment where he was expected to, he didn't get toys. He got calculus books for Christmas. Like that's true. So, and he kind of feels like, if your kids aren't getting things like A's in school, or they aren't like passing every, swim test on the first try, then he's like, well, what have we done with your life? What are you doing with your life? Meanwhile, I'm just kind of like, people have to be given the opportunities to fail. People have to be given the opportunities to find where their strengths lie. And it doesn't always lie in what you would hope for them. Right. So him and we have this kind of interesting balance of parenting styles that we sometimes butt heads over it. And it just comes from, again, like how we were raised. Right. So we're trying our best, and hopefully our kids will try their best. Like, that's all we can hope for. So,
yeah. Hearing you talk about your husband, I can relate, because I had those tiger parents. And I think when you have parents like that, it does traumatize you to the point where you're like, well, I got the A, now you want the A plus, and even when I got the A plus, you want A plus plus. So
yeah, the sense of number not quite good enough.
Yeah. My dad was a bit of a tiger parent, and he was also a teacher, and so academia was extremely important for him. And it's what pulled him out of poverty, right? Like it was his key to success was through academia. So like I think part of it growing up is also empathizing with your parents in a way where you're like, oh shit, like I get how that got twisted that way. And I get how that got manifested that way. I didn't love it at the time. Didn't love spending my summers doing like math and French homework, but like I understand where it came from. And there are pieces of my childhood I want to replicate with my kids. But at the same time, I'm like, academia is just one way of evaluating intelligence. And I just don't want to get lost in the sauce of like somehow a grade 2 teacher's opinion on my kids, like reading and writing is like the be all end all, because age and aptitude and all that stuff, it takes everyone their own little time to get there, right? Like I struggled hard as a kid, like as a young kid. And I mean, I moved provinces. I moved from New Brunswick to Ontario. I barely spoke any English when I came to this province. I certainly didn't feel comfortable in it. And I went to a French school, so I didn't learn how to read and write in English until like grade 7 and 8. Like I was a really, really late at the party, right? And so high school got a little bit better, college got a little bit better, university got into the honor roll. Like as I progressed, it got easier for me. So I remember like my trajectory wasn't always this like perfect academic record. And I was definitely like looked upon as like, why aren't you getting there? And it's like, I have a little bit of that grace for my own kids who are also going through their own journey of academia, and we're making changes, and we're but recognizing that like this is not the only measurement of intelligence that's out there, and they still have a bright future even if they're not like
or success in your kids. Like this is the be all and end all.
Exactly.
Diva Tonight with Carlene will be back. Send us a message on Instagram at diva_tonight.
silence.